I didn't get anything this week. I did I order anything? I don't think I ordered anything either. Um, yeah, so it was a pretty quiet week on the toy front for me.
All right. Wade, how about yourself?
Yes, well, I picked up at my local comic shop. I found the Hot Toys Justice League Superman. My birthday's coming up in a month, so my buddy he texted me a picture of my gift. He bought me the Magical Punisher, but that's not in my possession yet.
Nice.
But the Superman was the big get, and Hulkbuster from last week is still sitting on my kitchen table. My wife says, "You can take that downstairs in your main cave," and I was like, "No, not yet. I'm still playing."
It's too pretty. You know what? I get it. On the on the table, well, it's technically the dining room, but we never have enough company to use it as a dining table. I still have, because I think it's pretty, the Playmates 84 Voltron.
Okay.
And I leave it there because he's pretty, he's big, he's pretty. So I totally get where you're coming from there.
Yeah, it's big and it's chunky and like it's such a big toy, and the ratchets and stuff are so strong on it. Like I literally need the room. Like there's no sticking him on a shelf and trying to repose him. Like I literally have to like wrap my arm around him in order to get his arm to click, 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 click up or click, 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 or his knees. Like it's almost like doing physical therapy on somebody.
I get exactly what you mean, because the Encore Fort Max is exactly the same way.
Okay.
I truly believe they strengthened the ratchets in that from the old G1 mold. Because oh man, you gotta that is a workout. Just trying to get that thing in any sort of position, whether it's forward or out to the side. It's crazy, and I love it. As long as it's not so strong that something's going to shear off, I'm all about it.
This is, and nothing shears because he's got a die cast like skeleton.
Okay,
I'm trying to move like his knee, and so I got to hold him with his waist, and I'm trying to bend his knee, so I like kind of lean into a little bit, and all of a sudden like a shoulder pad goes flying off into the so I got to go chase it down. Because, like, as it pops off, my dogs are already, like, watching in midair. And I'm like, listen, you assholes. Don't either one of you touch that.
My cat, my previous cat, that's, I had to keep him away from everything because it would not be pretty.
I mean, because he's a cat. Let's be honest with each other.
That's fair. So, Dustin, I mean, we know what you were getting on vacation, and it wasn't necessarily toys. I mean, maybe it was, but so
he was taking a bunch of pictures of his score, so whatever.
Yeah, we saw your haul pics. It's wonderful.
No, I actually had a bunch of stuff come in the mail when I wasn't home, and my brother kept getting packages. I came home to like, I don't know, probably like 6 or 8 boxes.
All right, give us the rundown.
So, Blue Ranger, Lightning Force, or Lightning Collection rather, came in. McFarlane Azrael, McFarlane Batman Who Laughs. I got a Marvel Legends Mystique off eBay, and then had to buy a Silver Sable so I could use the Lilandra head to make a Lilandra for my X-Men shelf. And my 3A Bumblebee movie Optimus.
Such a good toy.
Dude, I've been waiting so long. I paid for it like in April, and TNS wasn't allowed to ship to the United States. And finally, right before I left for Florida, they were allowed to ship EMS. And I'm like, how much does it cost for you to ship EMS to me? And then David was like, it's $25. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Dude, you're going to find EMS shipping for $25 because Robo Toy Shop is now picking up shipping to U.S. again, and they still have Galaxy Meteor in stock, and it's like it's like Surface is only $16, but last I looked, EMS to the States was like another 50.
Wow.
And it's not it's not a big or heavy figure. It's the size of your regular old Masterpiece Seeker and not any heavier. I mean, I've told you guys about the hell that I went through that figure with TF Source, and and I being 6 months removed from that ordeal, I can now realize, okay, it was the figure I was mad at, because for a while I was mad at TF Source for waiting 3 months, getting back to me for one thing, and yes, that portion was their fault, but mainly it was the figures issue.
Now, I'm sorry, Dustin, the Optimus Prime you got, that's the one that's like 12 inches tall, not the new one, like the deluxe one that's like 18 inches.
Yeah, no, it's the 12-inch one, the one that goes with that will be that came out.
Yeah, no, there's also one they're releasing. It's like it's either releasing or released. It's like a $400 version where it's like 18 inches tall, and it does more.
Yeah, and they have a Bumblebee for that same line too. That falls in line with because they did a bunch more like Bayverse ones in that scale, like like Last Night Optimus and Megatron. Not necessarily Last Night Megatron, but yeah, they've done I don't know, 3 or 4. Maybe 4 or 5. I'm not too keen on it. I don't follow Bayverse toys much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. I was just making sure when you said the Optimus Prime, I was making sure we're talking about, because I have the 12-inch one as well. I don't have the big.
Yeah,
the big.
It's that one.
So Dustin, one of the things we tackled last week, and I think your most recent acquisition there pretty much answers any and all questions on that. But we had a good discussion on non-transforming Transformers and where people stand on it.
Okay.
So, just give us your thoughts on that.
Transformers is a brand and not an action. So anything, as long as things are Transformers, they don't have to transform. There's the difference between Transformers and transforming toys.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm all down for a cool action figure, and if you give me the 3A is basically a Sola Chigokin Transformer.
Yep.
More or less. That can pull off poses a transforming version of it would never even dream of getting close to, or have the detail that one would. Because I don't care, that Toy World Optimus looked pretty good, but it's not going to hold a candle to 3A outside of it being able to transform.
Right.
Yeah. I in fact I've watched a couple of reviews on that Toy World one, and while initially I was thinking about grabbing it, once I saw A, the price, and B, just how ridiculously dumb it is to transform that thing, that was enough for me.
I mean, I'm into I love I might be in the minority, but I enjoy a transformation that takes forever, a super intricate tiny pieces moving, the level of engineering that had to get it to that point was amazing to me. Whether it's fun to do or not is a different story. Something about super complicated transformations get me good balls a little bit. They're simple ones are fun to do back and forth, but I lose interest after a period of time. Whereas super complicated one, I'm going to sit down with it for about 45 minutes. Watch it explode and come back together.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I guess that's a good. I guess that's a fair point. I can appreciate involved transformations. For for example, TE01, like that's a little. It's satisfying, a little involved, but not difficult. It's those ones that just make you do 20 steps for one little area. That's something that just I can't bother with.
Not only that, when it's complicated just for the sake of being complicated.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's nothing like getting your hands on a $200 or $300 toy, and like it's brand new and it's not been greased, and you have this little tiny sway bar arm that is integral for holding a piece together, and they're like, all right, well, I mean, just give it the old college try.
Yeah. Cough, cough. Fans toys.
Right.
Yeah. There. Okay. So, Dustin, was there anything else in that haul?
A little bit. I just got today. I just got my Ranger Slayer.
Okay.
And then I got a couple pieces coming from eBay next week. I got the Onslaught Build-A-Figure. I just bought it outright because I didn't give a shit about anything else in the wave.
Mm.
And I got the Deadpool wave with the Strongman Build-A-Figure off Megalopolis Toys. It went in stock over the weekend. So yeah, and an extra putty for my Power Rangers shelf is coming, and Magic from X-Men.
Did you put together Strong Guy?
I haven't got it yet. I haven't shipped yet. Like it just went into stock. Like it went into stock on Saturday. I got a notification and bought it right away, and so hopefully it ships out tomorrow or so. I figured they wouldn't ship this weekend.
When you say Magic from X-Men, that's not the Walgreens exclusive that was kicking around for a while, is it?
Yeah, it is. I didn't get one when it was out, and I found one on eBay for retail. So I was like, I'll just get it now. It's okay.
Shit, I wish I had known, because my Walgreens is still littered with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like, this just maybe every once in a while you come across a Spider-Man in there, but it's like probably at least 10 copies of it.
Well, hit me up if you see any of the Emma Frosts or Danny Moonstars or any of those kicking around.
All right.
The what are the Twisted Sisters? What are they called?
Separate Cuckoos. Yeah, those two.
I
would only want to get them if I could get 3 at once, so I could just have all 3 of them.
You need the Iron Man 2020?
I grabbed one. I got one of those already.
Okay.
It's Walgreens. They sent me over a $10 gift thing because it's my birthday, and so I'm trying to decide whether I want to grab the kind of simplified Diamond Select Rocketeer.
It's so good.
If I want to grab another one of the Gundam Universe figures, because I've talked about it multiple times here, but I love that RX-78 that I picked up from that line.
Can we also just real quick take a minute and just appreciate whoever's in charge of Walgreens toy department that was like, no, I'm going to get us some exclusives.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like whoever's in charge of Walgreens toy department has their finger on the pulse.
Yep.
And like Pops, toy, anything. I'm making sure we get our own, and people have to come to our store because I go out of my way to go to shop at Walgreens when I need deodorant or medicine or you know what I mean. Like what a smart thing.
I do too. I got that Moon Knight coming out. So excited.
Yep. And of course, let's also acknowledge the brilliance. Whether it was Hasbro or those ordering people from Walgreens going, hey, you guys have an ambulance. Can we have that as an exclusive? Because once I found out Ratchet was exclusive to Walgreens, I was like, okay, that's cute.
That's tough.
Right.
Super tough.
That's genius and cute. Yeah, no, you're right on there, Wade. All right, so we definitely got to talk about this shit sandwich of a situation that is the now known Gigawatt. The Back to the Future crossover figure.
What
It looks terrible.
did you poor people not get 10 copies? I don't understand.
No, I'm good. Once I saw the robot mode, I was like, yeah, I'm okay on that. I don't need it.
Well, I would like to have it if I come across it, but yeah, no, it's not something I don't think I'm going to actively track down.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to get the Ecto one at some point to put with like my Mezco Ghostbusters just for display funnies, but I don't want to pay $40 for one either.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know the situation, yeah, we've Hasbro has announced a few more crossover lines for the 35th anniversary, Back to the Future, being one of these crossovers. So we found out, what was it, on Friday?
Yeah, it was part of Fan Force Friday.
Yeah. So initially we thought that it was just going to be a super limited run. They said they were going to limit it to 1,985 pieces. Again, nice little reference there. And they'd be numbered, and they were going to go at Walmart at 1 p.m. I have not been able to get official confirmation from this from Hasbro or anyone else. Just what I've heard through the grapevine is that Walmart dropped the ball hard on this. And that is when it went up for order, instead of being limited to 2 per person, the limit was put at 12 per person.
Awesome.
So I believe the number was 30 seconds in which it sold out.
Yeah, and aren't they going on eBay right now from anywhere from I think they're posted for like $1,200, but I think they're selling in the $600 or $700 range.
Yeah. And that, I mean, as far I thought eBay had kind of discontinued their ability to list and sell pre-orders.
Yeah,
so,
but you can still post it as a live auction and pay for it now, and then when we get it in hand, we'll send it to you. And people are desperate enough to do that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But again, isn't that under their pre-order umbrella? Like I thought that unless you don't have it in hand, they won't let you sell it.
Right. So I do it a lot for Hot Toys. You'll click on something, you're like, oh shit, they got this in stock, and then like you'll look all over the title, you'll look all over like the listing, and then in the description, like the very last sentence after like, all of the Hot Toys BS copied from the website is like, hey, this is a pre-order item and it's probably not going to be out to Q3 2020.
Okay.
So I bet if you put it like, pre-order, in all caps in your listing in the header or whatever, it would probably catch it. But a lot of them do not do that. I also think that's just how they try to catch, like, I feel like a lot of eBay is, when you tell your mom and dad you want something, they go looking for it on eBay.
Yeah.
And it's meant to take advantage of people. Like those idiots that would sell like the empty PlayStation 4 box.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But at the very end, it's all the PlayStation diagnostics, but at the very end there's just a little half sign that says, by the way, this is for the box only.
Yeah. But yeah, so it sold out immediately, and Hasbro even put a post up on their Facebook saying, "Oh, they didn't officially acknowledge that snafu by Walmart, but they were like, oh, hey, this sold out, and we're going to come out with a regular version in October." That'll be available both at Walmart and Hasbro Pulse.
Yeah, you can order it again on 10/1, I think it said. Something like that.
So I'm not worried about getting it because it honestly sounds like that the initial 1985 pieces run was kind of like a test for them. Like they wanted to see how well it would do. I can't understand why you'd need to test a franchise like Back to the Future, but
Right.
Well, yeah, it was so limited. Like outside of the Playmobil DeLorean, is there anything recently that's been? I mean, maybe like the Hot Toys figure. Like it's not a
not in that
kind of like
scale.
kind of like Ghostbusters. It's just not a It's not a franchise that gets a lot of love.
I mean, Diamond Select has made their own kind of electric models for all three movies, but that's no, I can't. I don't think there's been a Hot Toys one that's like 1/6 scale. And
there has been a 1/6 scale.
there has been.
Yeah,
there's a Doc and a Martin McFly and a
it
DeLorean.
That thing is huge.
Okay, so
There's a very
then
expensive
outside of
DeLorean.
that, then, there's only been the Diamond Select models and the Playmobil stuff.
Yeah. See, I also like Walmart fucking sucks.
Oh, they do.
Like, because I'm trying to get that Casey Jones and Raphael 2-pack because I have all the other movie turtle toys so far from NECA, and it's a pain in the ass.
Oh, I thought that was a Target exclusive.
No, there's Walmart.
Dustin,
And it's
went to my local.
Same problem with Toka and Razor and Super Shredder. I can see it coming.
Yeah.
Justin, I went to my local Walmart after you and I spoke to ask him if he had one, and he basically laughed in my face.
Yeah, it's crazy right now.
He was like, number one, we're a smaller Walmart because I live in a smaller city comparative to like, Detroit or whatever. We're a smaller Walmart. He says, so when they do bless us by giving us those things, we only ever get 2 instead of 20 or whatever.
That's what most people are saying. Most Walmarts are only getting 2, and it's a 2 per limit or 2 limit per customer. So as soon as they get put out, the first person in there buys both and then puts one on eBay for $160, and it's a $50 2-pack.
Right.
And this is a perfect segue into the next kind of portion of this conversation, and that is a lot of people have been posting videos about it this week because it sounds like that the whole gigawatt situation was kind of like the straw, the last straw, and that is how horrible Walmart and Target are for the toy collector industry.
Yes. I would say Walmart is 10 times worse than Target. Anytime I've gone to Target looking for something on BrickSeek or with a SKU, I don't care what Target I've gone to. I could probably think of 10 instances. The kid's always been like, let me go look in the back, and then come back with a handful of Earthrise Optimus Primes. Like this right here? Here you go, man. But Walmart, they just look and they're like, yeah, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. There's a difference between Target and Walmart when they break things down in the back, right? Walmart, their trucks don't get unloaded until their Cap 2 gets in. Cap 2 starts at about 2:00 in the afternoon. So if you're there before, you're not finding it. After that, then it's literally put out on a pallet and stacked as it comes off as a truck. So you might have something at the very bottom, whereas Target actually has those dollies in most cases that they pack it on, so it's real easy to get it on and get it off and to find what you're looking for.
Okay.
Not
that simplifies it.
Yeah, I worked in Cap 2 for Walmart for a while, and my wife worked at Target for a little bit. So I've seen what Walmart does, and I know what Target does, and Target is a hell of a lot more organized.
Oh, right. But even trying to be helpful, you know what I mean? Like, people at Target like.
Again, with Target looks like they'll load everything, they'll take everything off the truck, then they'll put it in a staging area. From that staging area, they'll sort it out. So by the time Target starts putting stuff out, they've already got everything sorted by department. Walmart has it too, but it's on a pallet as opposed to a dolly. Like it's I understand where you're coming from in that, yeah, Target is willing to go back there and look, but the reason that Target is willing to go back there and look is because it's all organized already. As soon as it comes off the truck, they get it organized and they get it ready to go.
Okay.
Walmart gets it. There's a pallet. They literally drop the pallet at the end of the aisle, and then you have to or at the end of the section, and then you have to figure out which aisle in the section whatever you're randomly pulling off the pallet goes in. Whereas Target, they're like, all right, this cart goes to these 2 aisles, wheel it out in front of these 2 aisles, and then you're just going to take it and empty it. And I honestly think it's a matter of convenience. I've also sent Walmart employees back to the back for my wife for her horse habit, which we'll get into later, or maybe next week actually. If to find she wanted me to find some type of, I think it was a stablemate, right? So basically her version of a Legends class figure. And one of the Walmarts that was near us had it in, and she was like, don't leave that Walmart until you send the poor kid out back and find it. And I'm like, I didn't want to do that. But I did it. And like, it took the poor kid like a half an hour because he had to dig. And he came back with a box. He's like, okay, which one of these do you want? And I'm like, we're taking them all.
Give me the whole box. I'll take everything you have.
It's literally what happened. He was like,
your wife is,
okay.
What's his name from Parks and Recreation? I want all the bacon.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I think you misheard. I think you misheard me. You're acting like you heard, I want a lot of your bacon. I said, I want all of it.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll get into the horse stuff next weekend. I don't know. Do you want to do that next weekend? It's going to be Briar Fest weekend next weekend. But we'll talk about it.
As long as your wife gets on drunk. Does Briar Fest like that?
My wife is pregnant. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, we can talk about Briar Fest when she's not pregnant then.
Okay, that's fair. That'll be a few months, but we'll have her on, I think. But anyway, so we were talking about the distribution. I don't think so. Walmart, very oddly, I don't know how Target does their distribution. I can tell you how Walmart operates. Walmart operates by, we're going to get stuff in based on how much of it we think we're going to sell. It'll come in and then it doesn't get reordered until it's at a low point in their system. So it actually has to wear down a bit before they get anything ordered. And it's not just one piece, it's not just one figure, but let's say you get a wave of Transformers, right? Because that's where basically Nate and I start getting stuff. Once you get that whole wave in, if there's only one figure in that wave that you want, if that figure is gone, you have to wait until that whole wave gets down to like 2 figures. Then it automatically reorders stuff from the distribution center, and then you're subject to whatever's in the distribution center.
Yeah, I always thought it was like when people complained that my Target has nothing but peg warmers. It's like, yeah, the computer just shows there's 50 Marvel Legends on the shelf. It's not discerning. It's not saying rotate the old ones for the new ones.
Right. If there's 50 figures on the shelf, then it's not getting in, which is why shelf warmers are unfortunately good and bad. I mean, good because, hey, people have interest in some of the figures, but bad in that the more they kind of stack up at a particular place, the less likely it is that you're going to get a new figure.
Right.
So if anybody does listen, all you 4 or 5 people, buy the shelf warmers.
That's exactly. Remember the guy down in at the Somerville gatherings, Lance? Steve. I think his name is DeGiorgio. His last name.
I don't remember.
I love his speeches.
He's the interesting fellow who always has, he's got glasses and always wears a ball cap.
Yep.
But yeah, he was talking about how he would do that essentially if there was a figure lining the shelves, he would literally buy the 7-8 copies of that was on a shelf, wait until new stock came in, got what he wanted, and then returned all the stuff that he bought.
That's a patient man.
I don't know that I would do that, but one of the things that I will do, especially during Christmas time, and this is when I do it, is around here we used to have Toys for Tots, and they would come to our local Toys R Us's. Now that Toys R Us is gone, they go to Walmart, they go to Target, and stuff like that. And this is a tradition that I've done with my son. We'll go into a particular store. I'll let him pick out one thing, and then I'll go and I'll pick out a shelf warmer transformer. We'll buy them, and we'll just donate them to Toys for Tots. So that way, A, we're moving it so that way new stock is coming in, and then B, we're doing something nice for somebody. So I'm always a big fan around Christmas time. They'll accept stuff any time of the year, but I'm always a big fan of going through and getting the shelf warmer or whatever it is and donating it to Toys for Tots so you can help somebody out.
I will say, guys, it's a time to celebrate because my local Walmart has officially started putting the Marvel Legends in plastic lockable cases because people kept stealing all of the Build-A-Figures out of them.
Really?
We turned a corner at my local Walmart, just the Marvel Legends. Now the Transformers, not nothing else. Because every time I'd go in there to look for something, there'd be 2 or 3 of them that would just be ransacked. And I would gather them up and take them over to the first kid I saw and was like, hey, somebody came through here and stole these pieces. I do it when I also find repackaged figures when somebody stole a figure and put a different figure in it.
Yep. I've done that.
So now...
I had an experience once, and I think it's more commonplace now. This was probably about 10 years ago when I bought a PC game from Walmart, and got it home only to notice that like the top piece of tape had been sliced, and of course the code was no good. So somebody had taken out the piece of paper, gotten the code and activated it. Once I came back and told them about that, it wasn't maybe a week or 2 later that now they're starting to put spider wraps on PC games.
Yeah, I mean, local Walmart still, depending on what's getting done in the area, a lot of them are quite responsive to, because there's a huge focus on theft, right? Profit loss is how they determine it. And so they will react generally quickly and very well to, if anything that's a widespread issue. I know what's the there's at least a Facebook group, and I think of a website, and I think maybe a website other than people of Walmart. It's kind of like what people have returned to Walmart. That's just all wrong packaging and stuff like that.
I mean, there's 1.5 million places for that. There are some threads on TFW. If you can go a day without seeing a post in either the Hardcore Collectors, Transformers Liberated, Transformers Only, about someone who swapped something, then it's a good day. But usually all that stuff gets there, and it's like, obviously, disclaimer, we don't condone this shit at all, not one bit. But if you are going to pull some shady shit, at least have the decency to return it as like a defective product so it doesn't go back on the shelf.
But yes, but you're not going to stop people from being cheap. Number one. Number two, I don't expect the people at Walmart or whatever to go through a shit ton of training. But like, I would argue with the popularity of the MCU nowadays, if somebody hands you a thing, I think anybody would know what like Captain America looks like. Or to even like, here's the thing, they don't even flip it over on the back to look to see what should be packaged in it. Like, oh, this is supposed to be a Wolverine, and it's definitely Darth Vader in there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect them to know the nuances that we would know as collectors. But I mean, like, the lack of even trying is laughable.
Well, I think there's a lack of trying, but in terms of training, they are also limited as to what they can do, because the policy is basically, except for, recently, if the customer is always right. So if they want to return something, you accept it without question. Is that the right policy? I don't know, but that is what the policy is.
I mean, I would feel like that does not include theft.
Well, no, and that's where you get into a gray area there, with kind of what Lance is saying. It's everything, Walmart's policy does say we'll take anything back for any reason. And
take advantage of it.
And they don't specify, it must be the same item that you bought. Like, it's not that specific.
I mean, I almost just want to, I want to be in the return line when someone right in front of me is trying to return some shit. Or next to me. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd love to be there and call somebody out on it. That would be hilarious. And the only time that Walmart will ever kind of look into something is if it's a closed box. So, like, if there's no window packaging and they can't see that there's something in there, then they'll open it up. So, when everybody's lamenting about how there's going to be so much theft when Hasbro enacts this green initiative and starts getting rid of all plastics from their packaging, I don't think there's going to be as much of that swapping issue as people think there's going to be.
I certainly hope not, because I will be perfectly honest with you. If I go out and I get a particular figure and I can't see in the packaging, and I get home and I open it up and it's definitely not that figure, I'm going to be pretty pissed. But we'll see what happens when they start it.
At this point, I would almost wonder if it's going to be if they start it, because, I mean, Hasbro does keep their finger on the pulse of fan reactions, and from what I understand, so far that announcement hasn't gone over way too well.
So I guess what would be, other than the potential theft issue where you get something back and it might not be what you want, what is the other issue that people are having with it? Or is it just like the issue people are having with wearing face masks in public, that we have to go and launch an armed standoff at our state capitol for?
So, I mean, as far as just as far as the closed packaging issue, I think it comes down to details for the collector market, at least. And that is, as we as collectors, we like to have the most perfect specimen. So, yeah. I chose my words carefully there. Yeah. Okay. But we like to have perfect paint. We like to just make sure we're getting what we really want in our collection, and I think that's also a big part of the issue.
I mean, so you're only ever seeing really half the figure, even
exactly, because you don't know about the build quality.
And then you're right. So you're only seeing half the figure in terms of paint apps, and then it's surface stuff. And then, like we talked about last week with our mutual friend and earlier this week, our mutual friend and G.I. Joe. Like, the G.I. Joes look great in box.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took them out of the box. And Roadblock could barely stand up straight without his vest. Snake Eyes can't stand up on his own at all. Was it Scarlet whose torso completely exploded and like an arm popped out? So I mean, I understand I want to have the perfect specimen, but I don't know. I don't think it really is going to make all that much of a difference. It could just be me. I could be in the minority, and that's fine. I don't think it's going to make a stick bit of difference.
You're right. It's just frustrating. Yeah, like it's some people. It's like it's grown adult. I'll even say older teenagers and grown adults that want these toys. It's not 10-year-olds that are going and taking the Build-A-Figure pieces or doing these figure swaps. You know what I mean? It's not little kids. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say like if you can't afford it, don't do it. But like there are so many other avenues to do it, to buy the wave off of a website, or I just struggle to think like in my community who doesn't have access to like maybe the internet, or who doesn't like. It's very frustrating.
And here's the thing: there's no defensible reason for it, none whatsoever. And I don't think it comes down to anyone not having access to internet, or they're just
It's I want it. I know I can take it, and I know I can get away with it, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, it's bordering on entitlement, and there's no. You can't find a defensible or understandable reason for it.
No. Like I struggle to there's no way that I can defend the behavior, but I'm struggling to understand. Like, okay, a Marvel Legend at Walmart, my Walmart, they're like $18 and some change, maybe like $17 and change. So you drove there, you looked for it, you found it, you bought it. You then went home, you meticulously took it apart, replaced it with something else, put it back together, drove it back to Walmart, stood in line. Like, I feel like it's almost like you're wasting $15 of your own time.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost say like I can almost expected more. Like, let's say that Hot Toys were sold at Walmart and they're $200-$400, and you were able to pull off a swap. You know what I mean? Like, that's worth your time. But it just amazed me. Like, also on the flip side, not to say that you will or will not get caught, but like, bro, do you want to be the guy in jail telling everybody else you got 2 years? You know what I mean? For like retail fraud and theft.
Yeah.
What are you in for? A Wolverine figure.
And that's what makes it so interesting, because I've watched a lot of videos about it and such. That's what makes the whole Amazon process so interesting. Is because no one that's a side of it that no one sees. If you watch a lot of these Amazon auctions and stuff like that, the return pallets, it's just a fascinating process. It's so apparently what happens is 9 times out of 10, stuff that you return to Amazon never goes back into inventory anyway. Even if it's perfectly legit, fine return, it just you send it back, it gets written off, and then they just toss it into these liquidation stockpiles, and Amazon will sell these stockpiles of liquidation stock to auction sites who then will auction it off. And it's like, if why risk it at Walmart when it's nearly a buyer preferred system from Amazon?
Well, would you argue that the same people who can afford an $18 figure are not paying for Amazon Prime?
That's fair. Yeah, that's definitely fair.
And it sucks, Then I remember being a kid and buying Transmetal's Rat Trap, and he was like $8.99. You know what I mean? Now it'd be $22 or whatever. It's I get that but whatever Walmart buys those figures for, they had on their own cost because of assholes that refuse to buy figures and things like that. So stealing and stuff like that just makes it worse for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, there's no. It's something that's never going to stop, and that's
unfortunate.
All we can do is make it a subject of a podcast that maybe 5 or 6 people will listen to.
Not a lot of theft in the Briarfest community.
Oh God! Oh, yeah. When we go into the Briarfest episode, to say that there's no theft in the Briar, I will say this. So because Briars are a bigger horse, right? Is there a lot of retail theft? Well, it depends on what scale, and then at Briarfest itself, that's a whole different deal. So I do have a number of stories for you when we get there.
Okay.
You'll enjoy them. You'll be if you think the guys that steal the figures, the guys and girls that steal the figures out of Walmart are bad, they're not bad. You haven't heard anything, and we'll go there, and you'll be glad we did.
Oh, I'm excited and sad.
It's really true. They're crazy. I love my wife to death. Her collectors they will give Hot Wheels collectors a run for their money in terms of being crazy, in my opinion, from the outside looking in. But yeah, we'll get there next week.
So another thing that I wanted to talk about here, and this is kind of a big one for us in the collecting realm, because it's usually the preferred method of payment amongst everyone, and that is these PayPal policy updates. So has anyone been keeping up with this?
I have not.
I've heard dabblings that PayPal kind of abandoned buyer protection
to an extent, yes.
As far as private sales. Yeah.
So that is it, kind of in a nutshell, and that is that. I'm looking over the policy right now, and that is basically, and I'm oversimplifying it, is that anyone who is not a registered merchant with PayPal will not have their buyer protection. And a lot of people are wondering how that's going to affect eBay scams. Because eBay is definitely a preferred vendor. Whether they're counting each seller as their own vendor or not, that's a little confusing. But basically, things for things like item, significantly not as described, and like you said, Wade, private sales. basically they are leaving a lot of people out to dry here.
Right, but in all fairness, that's not what PayPal was intended for at the beginning. I don't imagine how many call centers they're able to close when they get rid of private sellers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the PayPal guarantee was meant more of like between merchants, and you're not going to let a merchant bully a buyer. But then when a buyer, it's between two people. PayPal's like, that's what friends and family are for.
Yeah.
You should only be exchanging money. If you want to buy something, go buy it from this. Go buy it from this website or this store. Don't buy used toy. How old is PayPal compared to Facebook? Like when PayPal started off, the private sales on Facebook and stuff like that were not even in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, PayPal's been around since what, like 98, 99 maybe?
It's one of Musk's first ventures, I think, if not his first venture.
Yeah. No, and you know what? You bring up a very valid point in that. I just think so many people have been so used to the way that it's been for the past, ever. I have been lucky, knocking on the wood table here, that aside from a couple eBay snafus from ordering from a Chinese seller that looked really legit, I haven't had any problems in private sales. So, I mean, I'm not overly worried about it. But it's... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'll also tell you, I got on eBay maybe a year or two ago. My stepdad, he's in construction. He had some range hoods, like the vent fans that go above the stove.
Yep.
And I had like 6 of them he wanted to sell. I put them on eBay, and I put the complete description, pictures of a range hood, the box, the box in the box, out of the box, and one of them out of the box. Box is sealed with the spec, with close up of the specs on the side, what it fits, what it includes, blah blah blah. And I had on eBay, no returns.
Mm-hmm.
This is not for debate. You buy it from me, as long as it's not broken, it's yours. And I had at least 2 people return them because one of them they didn't like the color white it was. It was that's not what. No, I deny your return. And then eBay sided with them. And I had another person that when they turned their vent fan on, it was too loud for their liking. That's not. Is it broken? No, it works just fine. It just is. It's just too loud for what I like. And that's not a returnable offense. And eBay sided with them too. I'm talking about weeks of going back and forth with eBay people and these idiots on eBay. So buyer protections. It's a weird thing as well that I can only imagine what big sellers have to go through. Whereas I'm I'm just selling a couple of vents, and these people are oh, it's just not exactly what I wanted. Well, that sucks.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and I'm sure, if I had to guess, for people who are doing hundreds and hundreds of transactions a day, there's probably a streamlined system for those, top sellers. But I'm not saying that it's any less sucky for them.
Nope.
Did I drop again?
No, you're good.
Okay. So
some idiot's lighting fireworks off again, and my dog is currently in my lap. What is that? They're coming to murder us.
Yeah. So as I said, yeah, I'm sure it's no less of a headache for those big sellers, but I'm sure it just takes a little less time.
Right.
So that's pretty much all I had ready to go. is there anything else anyone wants to tackle on the toy front? There's been U.S. sightings of the new Clones pack coming out at Target, so maybe we'll start seeing those soon. Other than that,
I mean, unless you're that poor sap that bought the Walgreens exclusive 2-pack and all of the Siege or whatever Titans Return gift sets, and you already have them, that's exciting news.
Yeah, I feel bad for that asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know anyone like that.
Nah. Nope. He's probably living with someone who collects model horses too. Yeah. So is that it?
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's roll on into Wrasslin then. So I need to restart where I left off from when my internet cut out, but I've been watching a bit of Great American Bash here. I think first and foremost, before we get into anything here, we need to talk about the NXT match last week that I said I was going to watch, and I did. And that is the triple threat: Keith Lee, Gargano, and Finn Balor. And it was indeed wonderful.
Yes, it was.
I will say I think my favorite bit in the match, my favorite spot in the match, was right when Balor was about to give the shotgun drop kick to Gargano, and just the perfect camera angle of Keith Lee coming back up on the apron right behind Balor. That was some comedic gold.
Movie angle.
Yeah, that was comedic gold right there.
It was. It was a nice callback to the first time that they did it too, because that wasn't the first time that they've done it. They did it probably a month or two ago, in another match where Balor was interfering, and it just keeps getting better each time.
Yeah. So as we all know, I was talking about it a little earlier tonight. Keith Lee is going to go on for the title versus title match.
Yeah, he is.
And that's going to be a damn good match. I'm in the camp of I will watch Keith Lee do just about damn near anything. And I'm excited to see what.
What do you think, Lance? You think Keith Lee's going to win?
I don't really care who wins. I'm just going to be entertained.
Yeah,
and if people who already knows the outcome would keep their mouths shut, that would be awesome.
I mean, Adam Cole's got a whole stable behind him, so he's been champion for a long time. God, if anybody knew who's actually the winner was of that match because they shot it early.
They should shut up right now. No, I'm honestly very, very excited for that match. I think that I think that AEW and WWE, they were going back and forth. I think WWE kind of caught a break when it comes to next week in the ratings because of what happened with Renee Young and Jon Moxley. With Renee Young coming down with COVID, Moxley not wanting to perform. So already on the previous 2 weeks, the main event for NXT had been beating out the main event for AEW. So I think that trend is unfortunately for AEW going to continue because you had their matches this week, and I haven't looked at the ratings this week, and I haven't watched anything about the ratings this week or for this past Wednesday. But this past Wednesday, you had Shirai and Banks, and then that match went up against I believe it was the the AEW tag title match, and it was Omega and Page versus Best Friends. Now, while that was a very good match, and I'm sure we're going to get to this week's main event, when Nate finishes watching it, which will probably be in 3 weeks. It
Give or
was
take.
a phenomenal match.
I'm actually zipping through right now because there were two guys fighting that I just didn't give a shit about. I don't even know who they were. I had not heard anything about Renee Young being diagnosed.
Really? Well, it happened early last week, or maybe late the week before. She posted on Facebook about it, or Instagram, or something. She posted somewhere about it. So, long story short, obviously, Vince was not thrilled. But she posted that she got tested. It was with the report of 24 people in WWE being tested positive for it.
I had heard about that report. I
Yeah.
I didn't realize that she was in that group.
She was one of them, and a few people, not every single one, but a few people had just come out and said, "Hey, I'm positive," and whatever they felt like they needed to say. She was one of those people. After that, Moxley, while he has, so according to Taz's pulling back the promo, pulling back the curtain promo on this week's AEW, Moxley had been tested 3 times in that last week and was negative all 3 times. Because Taz is obviously the mouthpiece for Brian Cage, who is going to be the next person to fight Moxley for the championship. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening. Right now, I think they've got it pushed out another couple of weeks. But yeah, NXT. So for the episode of NXT where it was it was a triple threat match, overall that beat AEW. I don't know what happened this past Wednesday in ratings, but it looks like maybe we could potentially see kind of a shift now that we're in, almost a year into the quote unquote Wednesday Night War. We could almost see a shift in that. It looks like maybe NXT is starting to overtake AEW. And I think you've seen some changes on NXT. If you watch NXT now isn't as pure wrestling as it had been in the past. It's a little more WWE style, but it's not too much WWE style. It's kind of in this nice little mid-ground kind of place right now.
They had to. I mean, they did. Eventually, they had to. I think they were just waiting till they built up their roster enough to actually have, coherent storylines. How old is AEW now? Is it a year yet?
It'll be a year in October, I believe.
So, AEW 6 or 8 months ago, when they really only had 10 or 15 guys, it was hard to put together coherent storylines. So then all you could do is put together really good wrestling matches. So now they're kind of building the other side of the foundation.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think one of the things with AEW too is I don't think they've had a problem building storylines. So if you watch AEW, like they build storylines, but they build so many storylines. They pack so much in. I think they almost build too much into their storylines. You've got let's take just like the tag team champions, right? Omega and Page. You have the issue with Omega and Page personally because Page was feeling down and out as the member of the Elite that hadn't won gold or hadn't won the World Championship. You had Omega going through his trials and tribulations. You have them having a little bit of a maybe we'll see what happens rivalry as a tag team. Then you have the larger story of the issue of the elite versus the inner circle, which also boils down to both Hangman and Page having individual rivalries with Chris Jericho. Then you have them as a tag team and their rivalries with, it looks like they're going to be building up Dark Order. They've had a few matches with Best Friends that they've considered a rivalry. Now you've got FTR coming into the mix saying they don't want to go right for the Bucks. They're going for right for the titles, and they inserted themselves in that mix. And there's just so much going on in all of those storylines. I think really the issue with AEW right now, and maybe why it's losing viewers, is it's got too much storyline going on.
Let me ask you, Lance. I mean, you watch wrestling way more religious than the other three of us, I feel like, put together. Do you feel like Chris Jericho, in his current tenure in AEW, do you feel like he is setting it up? I mean, he's setting up for success, but to hand over, or do you think Chris Jericho is going to be to hand over to retire, to kind of ride off into the sunset? Or do you think Chris Jericho is going to be like kind of like your Undertaker, kind of like your Ric Flair, where he's going to have a hard time letting it go?
So let me just interject real quick into that, and that is, I truly believe that Jericho at some point is going to start doing what he did for WWE, because that's the kind of guy he is, and eventually, I think it's going to, he's cemented his legacy in that company already, on top of his massive legacy in WWE. I think we're going to start seeing him eventually putting over the new talent and being that guy to help work with the new talent.
Right. My question is, though,
watch a lot of AE dubs.
Do you think that, I'm just asking, do you think that he'll retire and leave gracefully? Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see Jericho kind of like Ric Flair when he went to TNA, or even like his last year or two at WWE, where it's just like, bud, you have nothing left to prove. You can set it down. You're not hurting nobody. I don't know how I feel. Chris Jericho is smart enough, I think, to maybe continue his rock career and give wrestling, not just a break, but peel away from it. But I don't know if he's willing to give it up all entirely.
That's a good question. I think that as much as I love Chris Jericho, I think he is going to be kind of like a Ric Flair. So in terms of, I'm going to address a couple of things in the response. Like one, Wade, to your question, I absolutely think Chris Jericho is going to be kind of like a Ric Flair. He's going to be kind of like a Ric Flair in that, does he hang on, quote unquote, too long? Maybe. But I think that he's going to hang on too long for exactly what Nate said. And if you've watched AEW and AEW Dark recently, so now Jericho has had feuds. So once we get past the main guys, right? So your Omegas, your Hangmans, your Moxleys, all of them. So we're throwing them aside. Jericho's next feud was built up during the initial filming of AEW's like Jacksonville or Georgia show, where they went to a small studio in Georgia and they just did a ton of TV. And during that, he built up a feud with a guy who was named Pineapple Pete. Now, don't be disappointed if you've never heard of Pineapple Pete, because he bills himself as wrestling out of, and I want to get it right, London, England, by way of Georgia. Never heard of this guy. He was in the crowd at AEW. He was one of their crowd people, and Jericho, while he was on commentary, if you watched commentary in that time while they were filming at Georgia for, when they did a bunch of stuff, Jericho was just ripping this Pineapple Pete person. and they ended up in a match, right? Because Pineapple Pete is basically one of AEW's developing talents. His next match is going to be this Wednesday at Fyter Fest, and he's going to be wrestling Orange Cassidy, who
I was gonna say, I feel like that they have a stable already. The two of them should.
Jericho and Cassidy?
No, Pineapple Pete and Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
You know, they need to get like
So,
a,
yeah.
you know, Apple Terry or whatever. Like
A fruit salad stable.
Mm.
But
Something with Dole in the name.
there we go. But so Cassidy is actually in a stable with Best Friends. Because one of the things that AEW does is they have their 3-person stables, right? Because they have a lot more 6-person tag. But yeah, so Jericho's already transitioning to that. So I kind of think, yeah, he's going to hang on too long eventually. But at the same time, if I'm watching him work now, he's just so damn good. Like Flair when he got to the end of it, Flair had checked out. He was completely uninterested in like anything. Jericho comes in, and Jericho is wholly entertaining. He got over a feud with Vanguard 1 in promos where he was yelling at a friggin' drone. That's impressive.
right, but that's. I guess therein is the problem that I'm asking is that like Jericho has been touted for good reason as the best thing in pro wrestling for a very long time. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And whether or not you care to admit it, you get into pro wrestling because you want to be name on the marquee, you know, on the you want to be your name in lights, blah blah blah. And Jericho for the longest time has been known as the best thing going. Period.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is he's still above average. He may not be the elite, for lack of a better term, wrestler that he was 10 years ago, but I don't blame him for that. That comes with age. He's still way above average. But I'm wondering, like, you know, as his body starts to break down and he starts to move slower, you know, like at some point Ric Flair would never be able to do a lion salt or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
let me give a kind of why I don't entirely agree with Lance on him sticking around too long. If you've ever watched the multiple interviews he does with Chris Van Vliet, there's one common thing that Jericho has always stated time and time again, and that is he never wants to be known, popularized, whatever, for a nostalgia pop.
Yes.
He wants to go out when it, you know, he said that he wants to go out when he can't do this anymore. And I think, you know,
there's a difference between doing it, being able to put on a good match, and not being able to do it anymore. Ric Flair could still get out there and do a match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I'm just saying that, you know, the level that he's been performing at for the past, I'm going to say 15 to 20 years. You know, he's eventually going to start to bottom out.
Oh, definitely, and it's of my opinion that he's going to wind down his career in AEW the same way he did with WWE, and you know, Lance already kind of touched on that. He's already kind of starting to do that. But I actually do have some faith in Jericho and to know when to call it quits and not stick around too long.
Wouldn't it be funny if Jericho just announced, kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing with The Undertaker, that he was just going to wrestle once a year at like their Fyter Fest? You know what I mean? Like, he's like, guys, I'm only going to wrestle once a year, and it's going to be an opponent that is deserving to wrestle me. You know what I mean? Like, I can hear Jericho saying something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. that's something that he could definitely do. I think that right now he's working on getting over the inner circle. I really think that the long-term plan for him right now is getting over that new talent, and I think that Sammy Guevara was going to be that guy. I think he's still going to be that guy. He just needs to, do whatever it is he needs to do according to AEW to get back into AEW's good graces. But I think the long-term story for him is he's going to be a mentor to Sammy Guevara, and eventually Sammy Guevara is going to turn on him, and Sammy Guevara is probably going to take Ortiz and Santana and then go make their own three-man stable, and Jake Hager's going to probably go and, back to MMA or do whatever he's going to do, kind of more like Moxley does, kind of go off on his own rather than be a heater. But I guess we'll wait and see. But I definitely think that, long term, Jericho's there to put new guys over. You look at his opponents, he was putting over the promotion and he was getting more eyes on the promotion just because he's Chris Jericho, right?
Right.
And now we're kind of past that, and what's he doing right now? He's just putting over the young guys. So I don't know. Right. I don't know if he's winding down or not. As far as does he hang around too long, I think he probably ends up doing it. Is it to the extent of Ric Flair? Probably not. But we'll see.
Okay. Like I said, I know you can take the best wrestler in the whole world or the smartest wrestler in the whole world, and when you're 50 and for 30 years of your life you've had your name in lights and you've been on the marquee and you've been doing it, and then all of a sudden you go to being like a stay-at-home dad or whatever. Like a lot, I just feel like, same thing. Professional athletes, your MMA fighters, your boxers, they just have a really hard time turning it off. And Jericho's been the best for so long.
Yeah,
that's all I was just asking.
Now here's another thing. Jericho has been lucky to the extent of he hasn't had many injuries to put him out for long periods of time. Most of his absences, his longer absences from WWE, were just that, him taking time off to, work with Fozzy and stuff like that.
Just his weird chest thing.
Yeah, and
him and Kofi and Taker.
And so, it's not like Taker, where Taker worked hurt for like almost all of '99. And that alone probably shortened his career far more than it should have. It also doesn't help that he started wrestling in '91 when the rings were built entirely different. They were built to hold the weight of 500-600 pound guys and had no rigidity whatsoever, or no give whatsoever. They were all very rigid and very solid, and getting hurt was far more often occurrence. Jericho kind of came up in the system, especially with WCW and the way that they built their rings. They had started more of the WWE style construction before WWE picked up that the cross beam system that gave them a lot of give. So there's that. So it's very possible that Jericho could go a little longer than some others.
And I will say, in his defense, I'm not just trying to shit on him. In his defense, he is one of the few wrestlers that I feel like has evolved his move set as his body has changed.
Exactly.
Yep.
The Undertaker could have could have retired the Tombstone Pile Driver fucking 10 years ago. You know what I mean? But he's not willing. Like, the Undertaker would add finishers, but he would never take something away. You know what I mean? So, like, Jericho's able to evolve his wrestling style around his body type, or if he is injured or part of his body is just not the way it used to, he's able to, swing over to something else and make it work.
So and that's what I loved about Taker when he came back from 2000 Judgment Day up through his 2004, kind of evolving from the biker through Big Evil gimmick. So he took a move like the Tombstone, which was just his kind of plain Jane finisher, and he made it once again feel super special, because I can count on one hand the times that I can remember he actually used that move during that whole sequence. So
during the American Badass, wasn't it like the move that he saved for the actual really tough opponents? You know what I mean?
He made it special again, and you're right. Jericho has updated stuff. Like, he only now uses the Lion Tamer when he's in a rough spot, and that's when he brings out the Lion Tamer. Things like that. He definitely has.
And his new finisher is the Judas effect, which is just a spinning back elbow.
Yeah.
So it's super easy on his body. Not that the Lion Tamer is super difficult, but something like the what was the double knee or one knee facebuster he did? What did he call that for a while?
The Code Breaker? Double knee facebuster?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So the Code Breaker, again, great example of a move that he doesn't really bust out a whole lot anymore, and that's probably because of the wear and the tear. It's another point.
Same with the Lion Salt. He doesn't do that a ton anymore, but
no, you see it every so often. But you're right; it's not a whole heck of a lot.
I all signs point to him riding off into the sunset respectfully and gracefully and stuff like that. And he's one of the few wrestlers I would really hate to see come back for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I would agree. He's one of those ones that I would just love to see him just bow out and not go down that road. Maybe, like so many of them do, transition to the back. If he's going to do that, he might still be.
He's already the back, right? I mean,
well, so yeah.
I'm just saying he already has a cut of what's going on behind the scenes at AEW.
But AEW, everybody has a cut of what's going on behind the scenes.
Fair enough.
So it's kind of hard to say that he doesn't, but at the same time, you can't say, oh yeah, he's transitioning to that. No, everybody at AEW has a cut of what's going on behind the scenes. They're creative, while it ends up being controlled by, the few people that make the decisions. Tony Khan is the last place that it stops, but then you have the Bucks, Cody, and Kenny. AEW is a very, very collaborative environment, from everything that I understand, and have heard, and all of that. Everybody has pretty much some sort of hand in the pot at some point.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the reason which makes it work so well, because yes, to extend the metaphor, everyone does have a hand in the pot, I guess, but there's never, what I feel, too many cooks in the kitchen.
Okay.
So would you disagree with that?
I would, to a certain extent. I think that, and this goes back to what I said earlier. So if we go back to, say, the rivalries and all of that quote-unquote storied history that they're trying to build, with, everybody. It's everybody has multiple things going on and then multiple rivalries going on, and does it make sense for a wrestling company to do that? Sure, but I think that it's getting to be, and I think this is why people are going over to NXT. NXT is very cut and dry, right? So you take a look at a rivalry in NXT, you can see a clear path and a clear progression. Might you, a few years down the line, see another match in that rivalry? Yes, but at the end of the day, the rivalry is very, very straightforward. I think that with what's happening with AEW is that it's starting to go, I don't want to say off the rails, but there's so many different storylines that all entangle each other. It's getting to the point where it's almost hard to follow.
They need they almost, as much as we bitch, they almost need a Vince McMahon. Like, we bitch about Vince, but for when you have one person controlling everything, does he go off the rails? Absolutely. But also he keeps, and Nate, when you say there's too many cooks in the kitchen, that analogy, AEW, I feel like I would say that every cook has its own recipe. Like at AEW, it's almost like every wrestler's in charge of their own reputation. So I feel like nobody's willing to, I'm saying, but it's like you get somebody who feels like they're hot or they get a good pop. So then they want to push themselves. So then you go talk to somebody like, I want you to lose to me. And then they go, ooh, why? You know what I mean? Like there's not like an overarching boss like Vince that goes, listen, you do me this solid, we get you going. And then after this feud, we're gonna circle back around to WrestleMania or whatever the case may be.
Right.
There's not like a Godfather, head type that's able to mediate this kind of
one guy taking that step back, looking at the whole picture of telling the story.
All right, that's fair.
Not that they don't tell very compelling stories, because I do feel from match to match they do. It's just that when you look at everything, I think right now, if you look at a whole storyline for AEW, it's that meme of the guy who's all crazy pointing at the card or the board behind him where all the strings are pointing everywhere. That's what, when I look at an AEW storyline, that's what I feel. When I look at, say, a WWE storyline, it's a much more straightforward narrative. And
I think you're talking about Mac from Always Sunny, but yes, keep going.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying one is bad necessarily. It's just that with AEW, it's a little hard to follow, because now I have to remember, okay, did Dark Order try and recruit this guy? Is somebody having a feud with somebody on BTE, because they bake being the elite into it, which, again, very, very good idea. I'm perfectly okay with it, but it starts to be, you start to get, okay, how many things are really going on? How many things am I trying to keep track of? And it's to be a little much.
Especially AEW. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, especially if you're somebody like me, where I watch, what is it? Something at minimum 11 hours of wrestling a week, right? WWE has 9 hours of it, and then AEW has 2 hours of it. And that's assuming that I don't watch the 15 to 30 minute BTE, which I always do every Monday. And I skip AEW Dynamite, or I'm sorry, not Dynamite. What's the one on the web? It's Dark, AEW Dark, which is another 1 to 2 hours of wrestling. So realistically, without in a non-pay-per-view week, you can consume about 13 and a half hours of wrestling. And if you're only watching AEW, I'm sure you don't have a problem keeping track of all the storylines. But if you're consuming up anywhere from 11 to or even 9 to 13 and a half hours of wrestling, that's a lot of friggin' wrestling.
Yeah.
making all these storylines that interconnect and go everywhere, trying to build almost like an MCU out of wrestling. Like, that's too much, especially because they only have 2 hours to do it.
But you kind of hit the nail on the head in that, like, for someone who's only consuming the AEW product, yes, you have a lot of storylines going on at once, but it's also, in my opinion, it's also kind of a way to keep things fresh, because you're not, okay, so these guys are in a rivalry right now. Best example I can use, I mean, I haven't watched a ton of it, but here I'm watching Roderick Strong and Goldilocks here, and I don't know his name. You know, feels like their third, fourth match together.
Dexter Loomis. Yeah,
and it's like, okay, you know, I've seen this, and yeah, okay, so they're doing a strap match this time, so that adds a little something new and different to it, but otherwise, I've kind of seen this. So with all those other elements to it, I think it keeps things fresh. But I can definitely see your point of view, where if you are consuming all the things, yeah, it could be hard to
well, I would say the AEW, it almost feels like they don't have a destination. The WWE has the big 4 pay-per-views a year. And it feels like
they're always
the storyline
towards one of
the storylines are building towards that next big pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can almost say, what is it, Survivor Series? It's like
SummerSlam would typically be next, and then Survivor Series.
No, what I'm saying is Survivor Series. Survivor Series leads into WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, storylines start forming. So, like, what you're saying about AEW, it just feels like that they're like, they don't look to say, all right, we've established this pay-per-view as our WrestleMania. This is going to be our go-home, giant, end-all, be-all payoff.
Well, hasn't All In kind of been established as that for AEW?
I don't know if they've
really not been around a year. What I'm saying, it's going to take a while. If they've not been around a year, I'm just saying that. So when you start to look at the WWE and you say, like, you see kind of a clear thing, I can understand that, because it seems like AEW does not have like a destination. They're on a road, and they're going.
But they're just driving. They don't know where they're going yet.
But if you looked and said, listen, here's how this is going to work. You know, this tag team's going to beat you this week. They're going to beat you for the titles, and then they're going to go through some stuff, and then you guys are going to come back, and you're going to win it in 3 or 4 months at our big pay-per-view. But we want to put it on. You know, like, so what's the trade-off? Like, either you win the tag titles and keep them for 3 or, like, if you were in the WWE, would you want to win the tag titles at SummerSlam and keep them to WrestleMania, or do you want to be the ones who win the tag titles at WrestleMania? Like, what's behooving to your career? Right.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure any of it really is, because here we have not this past WrestleMania, but the WrestleMania before, we have Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins win, and they're no longer with the company. I feel like.
Wait, so wait, are you trying to argue to me that Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins winning the tag titles and Zack Ryder winning the IC title at WrestleMania, now that he's no longer with the company, has no financial benefit to him?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I guess I'm saying to the overarching storylines, and maybe I'm going back too far, you know, for it to be of any relevance. But even
I think I know where you're going. So what you're saying is they held on to it till the next night's Raw, right? And then they immediately dropped the title. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is, in storyline wise, why would we build them up? Why would we give them that moment? Because they're giving them their WrestleMania moment for 2 guys that have been with the company. Now, granted, they might not be using them, and they might be using them as a transitional champion for a quick switch, but they're rewarding guys who had been around the company for years. And in the case of Brian Myers, when he went down to FCW, when before he first got let go, he went down to FCW and was wrestling extra shows for free to work on his craft. So I think they're rewarding them by giving them that moment, letting them have that payday. And then was it kind of ham-handedly put into a storyline as transitional champions? Yeah, but I don't think that took away from any kind of overarching story they were telling at the time.
It's almost like the winning at WrestleMania is in and of itself a reward. Like
it is.
The WrestleMania win is worth. That was the point I was really trying to make. Like winning at WrestleMania, I feel like is worth the same as like a 3 or 4 month title reign.
Yeah, and that's a fair way to look at it.
So but yeah, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, they're both good company men that showed up and did exactly what they were told to do all the time. You know what I mean?
Zach got over on his own.
Well, what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying though is that like whatever they told Zach to do, he did.
Yes, absolutely.
He never like even when he got over on his own, did he badmouth the WWE? Did he badmouth Vince?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
no. Even in his interviews after he got let go, he hasn't.
Because he also, you'll be back. Like, why would you cut your nose off to spite your face, knowing you'll be back?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even MVP gets invited back for fucking the Royal Rumble, and he's in every week now.
Yeah, that one I'm still surprised at, but nonetheless, I understand the point you're making. Aside from, if I didn't keep up with any Raw or SmackDown this week, and I'm halfway, actually 3/4 of the way through Great American Bash here. So, is there anything else this week? I guess we could start talking about the first half of Great American Bash here.
I think the first half was good. So if we go back to that whole storyline progression, Nate, I know where you're coming from with something like Roderick Strong, Dexter Lumis. I actually like where that's gone storyline-wise, because you had Dexter Lumis come in just fairly randomly and almost replace the Velveteen Dream in that rivalry with UE. And that could be, I don't know, because of what's happening with Velveteen off camera. It might not be. We don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. But Lumis comes in, and I think he's done a good job of kind of starting to make his name. I actually really like that particular character. I think it's pretty unique in that he doesn't actually say anything. Mm-hmm. And he leaves creepy pictures around. He's been stalking the UE. He and Roderick were supposed to have a match, but that was after the Adam Cole Velveteen Dream street fight where he locked him in the trunk. Roderick Strong freaks out like 3 minutes into the match and runs off. So the strap match, I think, is a good storytelling device, next evolution of that, having both of them having to be in the ring and strapped to each other.
And that makes the whole little bit with the Viper make a lot more sense now when he tried to throw him in the trunk of the Viper.
Yeah, exactly. So with that but that's what I'm saying is that's right now, Dexter Lumis is just feuding with UE, right? He's feuding with Undisputed Era, and he's going kind of like that picking order that I guess we established. Like, you feud with Roderick Strong first, then you'll have a match or two with Kyle O'Reilly or Bobby Fish, unless they're in doing a tag team thing, in which case then if you win your feud with Roderick Strong, you then go on to fight Adam Cole, which is the same thing Velveteen Dream did. Is it a little formulaic? Yes, but it's simple. I can freaking follow it. I don't have to worry about, okay, now Dexter Lumis also has a rivalry with, I don't know, Killer Cross or somebody else, or other somebody else's, and then one as a tag team, and then one as a 3-man unit.
It sounds just like fighting Evolution back in the day. Like you started with Flair.
Yep.
And then you had Orton, and then you had Batista.
And then you got to Triple H. You unlocked the Grand Boss.
Then you got the Triple H, yep.
Yeah. And I think, that's... is it formulaic? Yes, but most stories are nowadays, so it's more about how you tell the story, and I think they do a really good job of telling that story. You have the women's 4-way that led off the match, right?
I really enjoyed that.
Tegan, I bet you did. You had Tegan, Mia Yim, Candice LeRae, and Dakota Kai. So I think, again, these 4 women have been feuding for a while. You had LeRae and Yim, who are now having a match on this coming Wednesday's NXT. And then you have Kai and Nox, who have that history. But I think it was a good storytelling device to get Nox over. So that way Nox faces Shirai. It also continues that LeRae-Yim rivalry and sets that up with that feud between, the Wrestlings and Team Yimitless. So I think that was a good match. It wasn't the best, but it was good. Strong and, like I said, Strong and Lumis was mostly storytelling. I'm missing 2 other matches at this point, probably 3. What were the other ones?
I don't know. It almost looked like
pay attention.
It almost looked like what's his face was having a match, but
what's his face? That's specific in a male-related profession. Thank you.
All I can tell you is that I skipped through it because I didn't care about either of them. So there's that. And in fact, I'm just about to get to the Io Shirai. And
okay, so pause it, and then you'll come back to it. But for right now, pause it. Don't go. Don't watch it while you're talking with us.
Okay.
And the only reason I say that is because it is a damn good match. Damn good match. I would take that match and I would put it on par with the Daniel Bryan AJ Styles match, Intercontinental Championship tournament match.
How dare you?
I know, right?
You shut your whore mouth.
I know. I'm putting over women's wrestling. How awful of me. All right.
We all know Michelle. The top 5 best female wrestlers ever were Michelle McCool.
Yikes.
If you ask Michelle McCool, the top 5.
Someone has some serious issues with Michelle McCool.
She's awful.
So moving on. So you had Timothy Thatcher. So Nate, you missed the second match was Timothy Thatcher versus Oney Lorcan. So Timothy Thatcher is the guy that gave Riddle his last loss in NXT.
Okay.
And, Oney Lorcan is, of course, our favorite Boston brawler. I love me some Oney. I throw up my ones every time he comes out. It's fantastic.
I didn't realize he was from Boston.
He bills himself. They call him the Madeline Pan Battler, but he bills himself from Boston. The Thatcher wins that match, but that was a really, really good, hard-hitting match. But it also let Oni display some of his mat skills, which he doesn't typically do in his matches.
Yeah.
That was a really good match.
I'll go back. I'll go back after this and take a look. Did he come up through chaotic?
Oni? I believe so. I could be wrong, but I think so. Then after that was the 2-on-1 handicap match, Robert Stone and Aaliyah versus Rhea Ripley.
That was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
I loved everything about that match.
I almost wanted Ripley to lose just so I could see the absurdity of Rhea Ripley and the Robert Stone brand. Like, that looked like it could be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the NXT, we're going to touch on how Shayna Baszler no longer is in Vince McMahon's favor.
So this is a whole thing we need to talk about, because not only that little bit, but Dustin.
Yo.
Still alive?
Yeah.
Damn it! You woke him from his napping.
You had to. It concerns me that you had to think about that for a sec before answering. Okay, so because we touched upon this last week, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And that is this whole movement coming out from people being called out for this inappropriate behavior.
Yeah, but Shayna Baszler wasn't part of that.
No, she wasn't. But it just I figured before we got to Baszler, and it just popped into my head. And I know Dustin's going to be brief worded about it. I just wanted to get his thoughts on it.
So what are we talking about?
Cancel culture.
Oh, well, to a certain extent, yeah. There's
in wrestling, with these wrestlers getting accused of something, and whether or not, at least immediately, whether or not there's proof, wrestlers being suspended, fired. You know, it's crazy how all of these accusations come out quickly.
I think, honestly, if there's an accusation, they probably should suspend them until the investigation is through, and then find out, you know, if they're guilty or innocent. Guilty being fired, innocent being reinstated, but they shouldn't be allowed to work under investigation.
Well, but also at the same time, like Vinnie Mac, like the reason why Riddle's not in trouble is because he got accused of some shit, but he was able to produce evidence that he had problems with this woman.
I disagree with you in terms of WWE. So this kind of and this kind of goes back to what happened with Enzo Amore, right? Everybody's
he didn't tell them.
He didn't tell him he was being investigated.
Exactly. So if WWE gets blindsided from something, as per their conduct policy, you're friggin' gone.
Right. That's what I meant.
WWE was not blindsided with Riddle because Riddle told WWE when he signed what was going on. He was fully open with them, and he disclosed what was going on with them. And he had a legal and paper trail. Other wrestlers, say the NXT UK wrestlers, you've got who is the guy with the mask? El Ligero didn't tell anybody. It didn't tell WWE about anything about that. He was gone. Jordan Devlin told WWE because the person had threatened him previously, so he went to WWE, told them he's currently suspended from WWE and pending investigation. Who was the other guys? There was Jack Gallagher. Jack Gallagher didn't tell WWE because it was something that happened in 2014 prior to him working for WWE. And I mean, based on what I know of the situation, it's not something that you would go and tell anybody anyway. But he got fired because he didn't go to WWE and disclose that information, and WWE got blindsided. WWE has a policy in place that if you go to them and you tell them what is going on, if something comes out and something breaks, they will not let you go immediately. Velveteen Dream is another case. He told WWE about what was going on and that there was a warrant issued for his arrest and why. He has yet to be terminated. I'm not saying he's not going to be. I'm just saying he has yet to be. So WWE is tries to work with people to find out the truth. But if they get blindsided from something, you're done.
Right. And that's the point I was making, is that the only reason Riddle has been safe from all this, like from what I'm reading, is that like he had a paper trail and he's someone who, you know, covered his ass when it came to all that. This wasn't like a
right.
This wasn't a thing that popped up overnight on him.
Right. They knew right off the bat. They knew before they signed him that this was going on. But, you know, you got guys like El Ligero or Gallagher who, and in Gallagher's case, I kind of get it, in that this is something allegedly that happened years ago, and depending on how inebriated he was at the time, because my understanding was that it was at a party or something like that. Not saying that it's right either way, but it sounds like Gallagher thought he had more consent than he did. But again, WWE didn't know about it, and they said, hey, this came up. We didn't know about it. Even if you're cleared of charges, Rich Swann is another case where he was charged with attempted kidnapping and spousal abuse from a fight with his wife in a parking lot. He didn't tell WWE about it. WWE found out about it and said, what the hell? While he was under WWE contract. And he's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Ultimately, his wife decided not to press charges, but WWE let him go immediately. And I believe he's now wrestling in Impact in the X division, right?
I'm not sure.
But WWE does tend to be, I'm not going to say tolerant, but more willing to work with you if you go to them when you find out about stuff and say, hey, this happened. There may or may not be blowback.
And we talked about that. Like a lot of companies, my company I work for has a, you know, like ethics policy. You know what I mean? Like even when you're not at work, you know what I mean? Like I drive a company vehicle, so the smallest example I think of is like, hey, if you get a ticket, you know what I mean? Like you have to tell us. You can't let your license expire. You know what I mean? Like that's a small thing of it, that like what you do outside of work has something to do with what happens in work.
Right.
You know, and I don't know. I feel bad. I feel bad that like all this stuff gets drummed up. You know, not that I don't ever want to empathize with monsters or otherwise. It just sucks when, like, you know what I mean? It's, you don't hear about something for years, and then all of a sudden it gets drummed up because of reasons. You know what I mean? And like, you know, even like Jack Gallagher's, you know, what, all these guys, like, you listen, stupid. You had years in the WWE to tell the right people about this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what made you think it was swept under the rug? Because as soon as someone feels like they're given a platform or going to be listened to, it's going to come back up.
And it's a balance, and I think in this country, right? I can't speak for every country in the world, but at least in the U.S., it's a balance of, I think, we are very much, or the way the law is written is you're innocent until you're proven guilty. And I understand where, you know, you've got certain professions where you're more in the public spotlight and they want you to have a certain set of morals or a certain kind of public figure and a public look. But I think that where the balance comes in is you've got to decide, okay, is this person, you know, someone that we want to have around after this? Do we feel that they've atoned? Do we feel that they've not atoned? Because we don't know what's happened with Jack Gallagher, if anything. Like, did that guy realize that he seriously effed up and go to therapy for years and years and years, or did he just go on in his life? Like, we don't know all of that stuff, and I think that, one of the good things is Scotland Yard has said they're going to start looking into a lot of the ones made in England. But again, you're innocent until proven guilty, and I'm not saying all the accusations are not credible. I'm sure that they are, especially given what we know of the wrestling culture, going as far back as the 1920s, and the Fabulous Moolah and stuff like that we went into last week. So I think it's a balancing act for a lot of companies, because I think that, again, judging by our mindset, or our law, is we want people to be innocent until proven guilty. We want them to have that chance to talk about what happened and have a jury of their peers decide, or a judge decide. And it kind of, a lot of it sometimes gets thrown into the court of public opinion. And there are situations, and I'm not saying these accusations are not credible, but there are situations where people have their entire lives just ripped from them and thrown away, and then it comes out that the accusations aren't credible. So I think that you have to go through that legal process for both sides to verify, all right, what exactly happened. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Is this a crime? And I know that the American court system is far from perfect, but I think that you gotta strike that balance at some point. And sometimes the court of public opinion, like you said, Wade, cancel culture. I think sometimes the court of public opinion moves very swiftly, and companies try to save face. But at the same time, you're innocent until proven guilty, and nobody. Very rarely do people remember the outcome of the trial more less than they do the accusation at the start.
Right, we call that a bell that can't be unrung.
Exactly.
Yeah. So circling.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, so circling back to what made me think about this to get Dustin's thoughts on it. You were gonna go into Shayna Baszler and her losing favor with Vince. I had only kind of read the headline about this and had not gotten many details. So what? Where were you gonna go? Did you hear more about that?
What I had read from the dirt sheets basically was that, and I mean, you don't know how true it all is, but so the last thing she had on WWE programming was a win over Natalya.
Yep.
Okay, so they were in the middle of a little mini feud. It feels like Natalya was being used as enhancement talent to put Shayna Baszler over for higher things. And I read that Becky wanted to drop the belts to Shayna Baszler, or the belt to Shayna Baszler at Mania, because she wanted her, for whatever reasons, but they went with Asuka instead. They went Asuka at the Royal Rumble, or I'm sorry, Money in the Bank, and blah blah blah. But Becky Lynch was championing Shayna Baszler. But what I'm hearing from the dirt sheets is that Shayna Baszler just does not fit into Vince McMahon. Like, Shayna Baszler is tough as nails. Like, she's almost, how do I want to put this to be polite? Like, Shayna Baszler is tough as nails. Shayna Baszler is an excellent wrestler. She was a good MMA fighter, but it's like, it's saying that she does not fit Vince's idea of a female wrestler. I don't know if it's because she's not pretty. She doesn't present herself as, like, makeup and kind of do like the girly things. Her mannerisms and her attitude is more that of like a male wrestler. Like she almost reminds me of like a female Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
Come in, wreck shop, and then fucking leave.
And that's what's wonderful about her.
But that's not what Vince. That's not what Vince wants. Vince looks and says, nobody wants Daniel Bryan to be champion. Nobody wants AJ Styles to be a champion. Those guys are not champion. Those guys don't have champion bodies. You know what I mean? Like where he's out. That's part of where he's out of touch. But what I'm reading from the dirt sheets is just that Shayna Baszler is, you know what I mean? Because the WWE, for all intents and purposes, is Vince McMahon's sandbox, and those are all of his toys, and he can pack them up and take them home whenever he wants to.
Though. Like, I wonder if like Shayna's not actually injured or something like that, or maybe there's a concern given the global situation that she has. I wouldn't say that it's not necessarily, but I seriously wonder if that's the only thing. Because
I'm sure it's not, but it's how the dirt sheets are. They're not going to present all of the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you've got Shayna, she's been in MMA. She knows how to handle the media. She knows how to handle the press. I think Samoa Joe is a great description. I think she's somewhere between some kind of amalgamation of Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, and Stone Cold.
So you just hear her music. She just comes down. You're not going to get a great, pipe bomb promo out of her. She's going to wreck shop. She's going to look good doing it,
and she's going to leave. It's fantastic.
I don't know. I think Shayna's been really improving on her promo skills. So could she have built up to one of those pipe bomb style promos? I think she was closer to getting there than not.
I think at the very, very end, her last promo, when Becky announced that Becky was pregnant, and she ripped Becky for giving up her career and to be pregnant. I thought that that pissed me off. That made me uncomfortable. That's exactly what that was supposed to do, and it was fantastic.
Yeah,
it made me hate her. I love her. Coming from NXT, I love to watch her work, but it made me hate her, and it was fantastic.
And as Wade said, she did exactly what she needed to do, and that's what makes her so good at her job.
But Nate, that's the problem with. Very rarely do you get. I'll argue that very rarely do you get a wrestler that is a really good combination of in-ring work and promos. Even like Daniel Bryan is a great wrestler, but he's okay with promos. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like he can be impassioned, but he's not. Even Stone Cold, like the 3:16 speech at King of the Ring, like he never topped that.
No, he didn't.
Stone Cold was good at going out there and telling people he's going to beat their ass, but he was not. You know what I mean? And you had, John Cena. John Cena, a mediocre wrestler in today's standards, but he could go out there and cut a promo and play to the crowd. The Rock, mediocre wrestler, but the mic skills more than made up for it. And John Cena and The Rock were so much more alike than either one of them would care to admit, where it was their wrestling style was more flashy and played to the crowd than it was technical or awe-inspiring. But, very rarely do you get, and the Divas division is what kind of sucks, is like, you get like the Iconics. The Iconics, I don't particularly care for them, but they can come out and they can cut a promo. You know what I mean? Like nobody's business. And they're all right female wrestlers. Did you catch that bit on, was it Raw this week, where the Iconics were backstage with, what's her name, Ruby Riott? Where she was like, she says, it's going to be, and they were like, don't say it. You know what I mean? And then she walked away and she come back and she did like the super over-the-top British accent. She's like, iconic. And then she like ran off. Like Ruby Rose, like, she's a good wrestler. Ruby Riott, she's a good wrestler. Like the promo, I feel like the promos would be there, but like stuff like that, they're capable of doing it and having spots. And that's where I feel, Shayna Baszler, she would almost. Vince is never going to invest a Paul Heyman into the females division, like a mouthpiece, because no woman is going to be as much of a physical specimen or genetic freak that like Brock Lesnar is.
Yeah. Plus,
You know,
I feel like that's opening themselves up to a bunch of scrutiny, even if it was a female, version essentially of Heyman. I think it's like, oh, you're having a woman talk for you. You're not letting this person have their own voice, and I feel like trying to do that would just that would bring headaches.
So I feel like she's I'm very sad that she's kind of a wasted talent.
Mm.
And doesn't need to be. You know what I mean? Like even if they tried to use her as like an enhancement talent, but they don't. It just sucks that she's beating, and like I said, she wasn't even written off TV. Like they didn't even give her the respect. When someone's injured, Vince at least has them come in and sell a beatdown or something.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it really sucks what's happening with her right now. I guess we'll see what happens going forward. I would love to see her back in NXT, which apparently, given the current situation, is not out of the realm of possibility, considering we've had Charlotte go back to NXT now. Rumors are Randy Orton and Tommaso Ciampa are going to be having a match in NXT based off of their Twitter feud.
I'll watch the hell out of that.
Absolutely. That'll be fantastic.
If it was Shayna coming back to NXT, the timeline, I guess you could say, of events is not too dissimilar from, or the way things happen is not too dissimilar from Finn Balor. Granted, Finn Balor took a massive loss to the Fiend in order to take his break. Wade, you're right. She wasn't given that luxury of being sent off in a grandioso way.
Well, I think Finn Balor, too, had a little bit different circumstances in that while he was out, he went and got married. So you have to question how much of that kind of bakes into it, too, because we know Rollins and Lynch, they were both out for a little bit because they got married. And then they came back. They had somewhat of a honeymoon, but it was just like a week kind of thing where they weren't written on TV. So I think that they'll make allowances for it. I don't think anything had to be as big as, let's say, Balor. I think Balor goes out to the Fiend big, less of that they're trying to, well, for
they're not married.
One, they're not married, right? But they're trying to write Balor off TV so he can go back to NXT. But at the same time, they're trying to put over the Fiend as this unstoppable force.
Yeah. Which they completely shit on, but that's a
I mean, did you expect them not to shit on it?
Yeah.
I will still say I still get excited anytime I hear the the Playhouse music. We haven't, however, seen the Fiend in months, which I like because that makes it special. The next thing that we're going to get out of Bray Wyatt is him returning to the Eater of Worlds for the Wyatt Compound Swamp match with Strowman at Extreme Rules. Now it's Extreme Rules Horror Show with bright neon colors, because nothing says horror show like neon green and purple. That's all right.
So yeah, unfortunate circumstances there. I'll finish out the match and we can talk about that leading right off. next week. But that's kind of all I got for this week.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't have anything else other than my ranting, which unfortunately took the place of Dustin's ranting this week.
I know.
I am watching my cat decide whether or not he wants to kill this insect that's wiggling on the floor.
You go get him, Bo. Okay. If nobody else got anything else, then I think we'll wind down here. Usual spiel. This is posted to YouTube, so it always helps us out if you give the video a like, leave comments, let us know what you like, what you don't like. Drop a subscribe if you are enjoying this. We'd like to know if we're growing an audience, or if you don't like it, feel free to unsubscribe. That's also lets us know what's going on.
Whoa. Let's not say dumb shit like that.
That's right. Let's keep it clean. Our OnlyFans account is...
Yeah.
Right. We don't need to go into negative subscribers and owe YouTube money or whatever. Like, that's fucking dumb. Let's be quiet.
Yeah. So, first post on our OnlyFans will be Dustin's candids, because his wife's stuff is all public. You can go see that. But in order to see the juicy Dustin photos, we're gonna need to pay $30.
In all fairness, Dustin took every single one of those photos, so it's not his fault.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you all next week.